said, hola, como esta? She said, konnichiwa. She said, pardon my French. I said, bonjour, madame. And then she says, say, and I say, no, lay. No matter where I go, you know I love them all. She said, hola, como esta? Said, konnichiwa. She said, pardon my French. I said, bonjour, madame. And she says, I say, and I say, no, lay. No matter where I go, you know I love them all. I'm feeling kinda young, I'm feeling reckless. Let me hold you, let me grab you by the necklace. I'll show you what the good loving and sex is. It turns you on when I got you feeling helpless. And I'ma eat you up for dinner, lunch and breakfast. Bring your friends along, cause they are on the guest list. We can fool around I'm breathless. Hold off the drinks, how my body feeling selfless. She's telling me this, she's telling me that. You said you take me with you and you never go back. Now I got a lesson that I wanna teach. I'ma show you that where you from, it don't matter to me. She said, hola, 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 como esta? She's hola, 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 hola. You know I love them all.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Loading Bag NUFC, the fully loaded transfer show. I think I know what's going on here. I think I know.
It's too embarrassing, Pete. It's too embarrassing.
Not my fault. Don't blame me.
Not my fault either.
All right, okay. Hey, so this is how you're going to do the show tonight, then? Is that right?
Well, it might have to. This is the reason why. Twins on top.
Spider-Man meme. What's going on?
Hey.
Oh, you know what? I was so close to putting on that one again.
Half time.
Yeah, halfway through. I was about to put on the Newcastle away again. Oh my god! Welcome to Loading Mag NUFC, the full loaded transfer show, part 2 with Antonio Mango. It's hot out there, people. Whew. It's very 31 degrees where I am. Daz, how is it where you are, and how are you, fella?
It's hot as well. I don't think it's 31, but it's heading towards the 30 anyway. And I was working here all day, so I wasn't off on holidays like you two boys. But yeah, so quick turnaround, collect my boy from school, make some dinner. And my wife is home to jump on the show. So yeah, go. Never stops.
Absolutely. Yeah. Chris, how's things with you, fella?
Good, mate. Yeah, warm. After saying then, I've got me fan on the go. The fan is there, so yeah, so that's keeping me nice and cool. But yeah, all good. Yeah, day off today. So yeah, been a nice chilled one. I watched the for anyone who hasn't watched it, I watched the Vinnie Jones documentary. It was interesting on Netflix. Very good. I'd recommend it. But yeah, nice chill day. Our baby's staying out at a friend's tonight, so the house is very, very quiet at the minute. And yeah, like the other night, I'm gonna take our Ted for a walk later. So I'm sure he'll be looking forward to that this evening. But yeah, nice chill day you say today, boys. But Pete, how are you doing, mate?
Yeah, not too bad. Chill one for me, to be fair. Tried to stay out the sun today. Just saying to Daz and Antonio before we went on, little session at the gym, come back in. Just I thought, should I go out in the garden, like just chill, enjoy the sun? I was like, it's just too hot, man. It's just too hot. So I just stayed in with a fan, bit of chill. That was nice. And yeah, so can't complain at all. And look, it's starting to maneuver a little bit. Noises are coming out with regards to transfers and little bits and bobs. We've got a bit of housekeeping that we'll do in just a second, but let's just get started. Let's get the main man in. Let's get Antonio Mango in on the panel. Let's get back to part 2.
Welcome, Antonio. Welcome back.
Hello. You's all right?
Good
fella. It's far too hot.
Melting.
Oh, melting me, honestly. It's so hot. But I love it. Thanks for having us back. And hello to everybody in the chat as well. I was laughing at one of the comments, actually. and I knew you wouldn't read it out. As soon as Chris said the kids were away, someone commented saying, Chris is getting something tonight. Oi, oi. Just made it.
I did think it.
You're in luck tonight.
I did think that, you know. I don't know whether it's just bad minds.
Brilliant. Great
That
crack.
did
I love
run
that.
through my mind.
Wow. We'll see.
Dream
We will
scenario.
see.
Dream
Don't
scenario.
Don't count your chickens in this house, mate. You do not count your chickens. Yeah.
But all good. Great to have you back, Antonio, for a bit of part two, just because, of course, we were going through so many names in the last show that we didn't have time to complete them all. So what better way than welcoming you back in? Before we get into some other names, just a little bit of housekeeping, some other bits and bobs come out today, maybe relating to Newcastle, maybe not, with certain players. One thing that is really important, though, is a piece that Mark Douglas wrote today with regards to an exclusive. Newcastle close to agreeing a UEFA punishment. Positive talks as of yesterday about a fine and transfer conditions. And I'll just run through briefly what that might look like. Newcastle believed to have shown themselves to be what is considered good citizens, and the fine will be a lot less than the 9.5 million that Villa paid, and I think it was the 7.5 million that Chelsea paid. It's going to be significantly less than both of those, so really going to be sort of a minimal fee with regards to that. But there will be some conditions in terms of our spending. We don't know what that looks like yet. And of course, there's been a little bit of negotiation there with regards to UEFA, and those talks were going on yesterday. Boys, just want to get your thoughts on that, whether you'd seen it or not. Antonio, I'll come to you first naturally. Just, you know, had you seen that today? Do you think, in your opinion, that's why maybe we haven't heard any more concrete news of any signings? Is it a case of waiting to see where we stand with regards to this UEFA fine and stipulations?
From the outside looking in, I think they already know where they stand with them, to be honest. I think if you look at Aston Villa, Chelsea, about a 10 million fine, and usually you can negotiate over paying it or having some sort of like structure to the payment.
Yeah.
So I think that when they've done the bit of business, they already knew that it was coming. So they'd probably already budgeted for it and predicted roughly, I'm guessing in between 8 to 15 million it's going to be of a fine. And I think they've already budgeted for it, to be honest. So I don't think necessarily it's stopped any transfer plans. Well, I wouldn't imagine it to. So I just think it's standard practice. They probably already anticipated it coming. So yeah, it's just one of those things that I was expecting. I said it as soon as they said that we broke the rules. I said on my channel it would be about 8 to 50 million at the most. So that's what I'm expecting. So I'm guessing the club would have expected it as well.
Yeah, the club were expecting it, Daz. From your perspective, is it good that we're getting clarity on this now, meaning we can just kind of move forward, knowing exactly where we stand in terms of the business that we can do, the important stuff? Yeah,
and like Antonio, I think they knew this was coming. They had a rough idea what's going to be budget for it, and it's not impacting on any transfer business done. It's and they probably knew when it was going to be sorted as well. It's pity it couldn't even be sorted before the season ended, because it's get it over with, get it done, and move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Get it done with and move on is what Daz said. Chris, from your perspective of things, I mean, I'm looking at, is this why there's a lot of talk that Newcastle maybe have to make some moves in terms of manoeuvring players out? Because I'm just thinking back to Villa. It was very much a one-in, one-out situation, which is what theirs was agreed with UEFA. Do you think ours will be the same? This is all speculation, by the way. You know, do you think ours will be something the same, or do you think we might get a little bit more leeway because we were only 3 or 4% over the limit, so we were in a better position, albeit just over?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. And do you know what, Pete? I read what Mr. Linkified put there in terms of the fine may be low off UEFA, but we may get similar trading sanctions as Villa. So yeah, it could be something like that. You know, To be honest, I kind of expect that this season, though, in terms of in terms of our trading. Like when we were chatting with Graham Bailey yesterday, our squad numbers look okay, but I think it's the depth and the quality. So it wouldn't really surprise me anyway. Even if if someone said to me now, you've got to let 6 go and you can only bring 6 in. It's kind of where I feel we're going to be anyway. It's just about improving the numbers and obviously letting certain players go that need to go or long overdue going. But yeah, I'm obviously interested to see what happens in terms of any further sanctions. We know that the fine, it sounds like the fine's going to be lower than what other clubs have received. But yeah, for me, I suppose it's more just knowing what what kind of sanctions we do have against us, and not to mention as well, obviously Villa. I think when Villa were sanctions, they were back in Europe. Obviously, that's not the case for us. We have a season without Europe, so it could even be a slap on the wrist, and then they could be saying to us, "Well, here's your fine," which is a bit higher than what we wanted to do. Next time, if you're in Europe for 27-28, make sure that you fall within the the constraints, because if you don't, you're going to get a considerably higher fine, and we may sanction you. So I suppose the club, as you rightly say, people have budgeted for this. The club will know that this was on the horizon, this was coming. But then on the other hand, what the punishment will be, that will be interesting to see.
Just a question on the 1 in, 1 out, right? Does that mean we've got Trips and Kraft Cook gone? Does that count as 2 out already? We could bring in two in that rule.
Well, because they're free transfers, I'm not quite sure. It could well be in terms of wages. So whatever we lost in those wages, we may well be able to recoup. So interesting point, Daz. If we get 2 free transfers that max up to those wages, maybe that is a 1 in, two out potentially. So it could work, because it is down to obviously there's a sort of wage to revenue sort of ratio sticking to that 70%. So as long as it sticks to that and it fits, whatever you let out needs to come back in, and it needs to be the same. I mean, if we, let's say, for example, if we got moved on, sort of like Gordon and Tino Livramento for significantly higher fees than what we paid for them, there's a high chance, and we talked about this the other night, there's a high chance that the players that come in won't come in for the same amount in terms of fee, and maybe not even wages. So that maybe gives us a little bit more scope to look elsewhere. So could be an interesting one. But look, this one's going to unravel. I just wanted to bring it up just because it dropped sort of like an hour before we went live. Some other little bit of housekeeping. A player that won't likely be coming to Newcastle, although we have been linked, is Belal El Khanouchi. Has signed a new deal until 2030 at Stuttgart. Had a good season, although been on the bench a fair bit recently towards the back end of the season. But a player that we have been linked with before, and I know you've talked about him as well, Antonio, as a sort of a talented boy. Was it expected that he was going to sign a new deal? Because there was a lot of interest in him.
I think so, because I think Stuttgart had a option in the loan that they would sign him, and I think they activated it. So I expected it, to be honest. And with Leicester getting relegated again, they've got no option but to sell. So I kind of expected it.
Nah, that's fair. That's fair. I'll just cry into my pillow tonight and look at the next player that we could potentially sign. Or other movements as well. Another player, Daz, that you talked about, Said Al-Mala. Brentford have apparently submitted an offer, 45 million euros, 40 million euros fixed, 5 million additions. So that's the first bid in there. Obviously, there are other teams interested. We've been one of them. Chelsea have also been linked. Another player that's likely to move elsewhere unless other teams move quickly. So another one that we could see in the Premier League, but again, not with Newcastle United. Hopefully, it's not another Rayan situation.
Yeah, so it looks like, especially the figures, they're looking for 50 million euro. I'd say we'd be shopping slightly lower market. I'm hoping for Matheus Fernando Prada in that position on the left wing. So let's see where he ends up. He had agreed terms with Brentford either. I'm sure he's got loftier ambitions than Brentford. No offense to Brentford.
So you're telling us it could be still on. There could be a chance. There could be.
That could be the chance. Yeah, you never know.
I'm going to do a full house here, Chris. I'll come to you. I know you've been on Vlachodimos watch for our goalkeeper. For how long that is, I'm not too sure. Vlachodimos' future is going to be decided soon. Sevilla did stay in La Liga. They did obviously avoid relegation. And yeah, it is a case that they do want to keep him, as we've talked about before. It's just a case of how much we can get for him. Obviously, it helps that they stay in La Liga because it means whatever money they get, and it's nothing like the Premier League, but whatever they can get is hopefully they can generate it into a transfer like him, and we can benefit from it. So our dream is still there, still alive, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, boys, tell me if I'm going around the bend here as well. Isn't Sergio Ramos part of a consortium who are trying to buy Sevilla?
I believe so. I don't know how successful they've been with it, but I did see that reported at some point.
So I don't know whether they're going to get a cash injection, which may obviously you would assume help in terms of incomings. I know when I saw that, I thought, oh, that could mean they want to keep hold of Vlachodimos. But yeah, I do still live in hope that we can permanently move Odyssey's Vlachodimos on. Certainly, if we're sticking with Eddie Howe, because it looks like he doesn't have a future at Newcastle United, so it would be best for him to ply his trade elsewhere. It just hasn't worked out, has it? And unfortunately, he was part of that PSR cycle where we were desperate to raise funds, and that's why we got rid of Elliot Anderson to Nottingham Forest. And in turn, they said, "Well, we'll do the deal, but you must take Odyssey's Vlachodimos in return." So yeah, I think it would be best for all parties concerned if Odyssey's Vlachodimos moved on, and hopefully, we can get him that permanent move. But from what we heard, it sounded like he was reasonably good at Sevilla, albeit the league position would suggest otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. So fingers crossed on that one. And I don't have it here. I did have it on a previous show. We never used it. Some other good news that you'll be happy with, Chris, is that John Ruddy's leaving the club. We know that. Nick Pope's likely to leave the club. Ramsdale is likely to leave the club, or definitely going to be leaving the club. But there's one that is staying.
No.
Our very own Gillespie is being offered a new contract. The best gig in football is going to continue on.
It's got better.
Another year. He is staying.
Leaving.
He isn't. So yeah, that was just a little bit of extra news in there. Some very quick ones here. There has been lots of noise in Germany, and Lee Ryder's touched on this about Alexander Nubel being a part of any deal for Anthony Gordon, and the German reporters have been going mad about this all day. But literally, not long before we went live, he has just confirmed that Alexander Nubel is not part of any discussions with Bayern Munich and Anthony Gordon in any form of deal. So it just kind of cuts that off there before people kind of run away with it. Not that he's not a bad keeper, because he is a good keeper, but it doesn't make sense, does it, to have a goalkeeper as part of a deal for Gordon, Antonio?
No.
Not for me. As soon as I seen that, I thought, nah, no chance. Not for me. I'd rather get the money and spend that extra money that we'll be missing out on a goalkeeper that we actually want.
Yeah.
So that's the way I see it.
100%. We don't want a Vlachodimos situation all over again.
No,
not that
definitely
it
not.
was back to him, but but we don't want to be there. Another player that's been ruled out, that's been lots of speculation, particularly in Brazil, is this man, the young centre back Vieri at Gremio. Lee Ryder again said, understood, there's no proposal at this moment in time for Vieri of Gremio. Do you know anything about him? I know I'm just kind of throwing this at you, Antonio, on the hop. Do you know anything about Vieri in his style?
Yeah, I think he's had an excellent. I think he's actually surprised me the way he's just transitioned into senior football. I think he's had an excellent season. I thought it would have taken him a little bit longer to get up to speed of things, because when I used to watch him at youth level, his decision making, things like that, weren't very good, but he's really excelled in senior football. I'm not surprised we're looking at him, because I think he's had an excellent season, and his attributes are incredible. So comfortable on the ball. He's quick across the ground. But the only situation is he's left-footed, and I actually think we need a right centre-back more than a left centre-back, because we've got Dan Burn, who's, if we're being brutally honest, he's not going anywhere. Sven Botman's not going anywhere. We only need a right centre-back if Fabian Schär doesn't sign a new deal. So I think that's probably one of the reasons, because we need a right-footed centre-back. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Definitely a right-footed centre-back, boys. That seems to be the target. That's what we've been talking about for weeks, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly what we want.
Yeah.
It's typically the long-term replacement for Schär, isn't it? Because I can see Dan Burn getting another season after this one, if I'm honest. Depends on how he does.
Really?
Yeah.
Surely not. Surely not.
Yeah.
That'll take him to what, 36?
Surely not.
Same age as Trips?
Yeah, I think he probably could. And the reason, maybe it's because I'm thinking, he's homegrown. I don't know.
I'll ask you a question. Is this you want them to get next season and the season after, or you think you will?
No, you're absolutely right, Antonio. No, I don't want. It's just
to make that clear. Right.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I don't want, but I think there's a possibility of it happening. Yeah.
It all depends if Eddie Howe is there, though, boys, as well.
That's another good point.
That's another good point.
Yeah, absolutely. His contract runs out next summer, 27. So let's see. Let's see. Schär rumored to be being offered a new deal, likely to be a year contract, which is what they've tended to do with players of that age. Just kind of knock it down the road for a year. I imagine it'll be the same. Look, Dan Burn's going to want to stay at Newcastle for as long as he possibly can. He'll probably want to finish his career there. But again, it goes back to the points that we've all just made, is that at some point you've got to make a decision for the benefit of the team, the squad. And I do think it doesn't matter whether Sven Botman has the best season in the world or the worst season in the world next season. We need someone in that position that's going to push him after next season, because he's going to need to be pushed. Just like Chow, I think, needs to be pushed this summer. But again,
do you know what, Pete? Just to add into what you've said, because it's absolutely valid. Is this not what a progressive football club should be doing? We're looking at it and going, Dan Burn's got 1 year left. Yeah, but this is what we should be doing. It should be like, well, actually, we want to give Fabian Schär 1 more year. Dan Burn's still got another year. Why don't we blood someone in now and get them ready? Yeah. Rather than Pete's right. It's pushing it down. It's pushing it down the road 12 months. Or by keeping Schär and Botman, Schär and Burn, you're then going, well, all right, this window will get one centre back, the right-sided one, as Antonio's mentioned. Maybe in January, maybe get the left-sided one if we filled the other positions. But it's just thinking ahead.
Exactly that. I think we haven't done that enough. Well, probably all the squad, to be honest. When you think about Trippier leaving, Tino's got 2 years left on his contract. Now, I always see on my channel, when they've got 2 years left on the contract, you've got to be ruthless. You've got to make a decision. Because if they don't sign at that point and they get a 1 year, their valuations drop by half. You just throw money out the door. And if you get any indication that they're not going to sign a deal, the football club's bigger than you, the team's more important. So if I'll use Tino as an example. If Tino doesn't sign a new deal this summer, just sell him. Tell his agent to go look for a club, because we're not in a position just to throw money away. That's how I see it. So,
and I saw Antonio. He made your sell list in your keep sell loan show. I caught a bit of that.
I said that in that video, didn't I? See, you've got to be a little bit ruthless. You've got to put the football club first before any player. Yeah. So that's how I see it.
Well, you only got to look back to last summer with Isak and Wilson going, our 1 and 2 strikers. We literally got rid of both, and we had no one that could step into that role, because nobody had any faith in Willisudu. And to be fair, in all honesty, although he's had a good end to the season, he played in all those preseason games and he was not good. He was not good. But we had no one that could step into there. Jacob Murphy's another one. Joe Willock's another one. But again, you're right.
Go on and on, couldn't we?
You're right. Absolutely. I'm gonna come back to you, Antonio, because I know you wanted to maybe discuss about a little something before we get on to players. we haven't really had an opportunity. Look, we've given our own thoughts on just how the season is in general, but I just want to get your thoughts really, and give you an opportunity to share your opinions and kind of review the season. I know we're kind of going back, like overall, like just your thoughts on it. How are you feeling now, sitting here a few days after it's finished, about how it's all played out?
If I'm being perfectly honest, and I think I'd be disingenuous sitting here saying I've enjoyed it. I think that would be disingenuous to probably everybody watching. And obviously, I don't speak for everybody. This is my personal feeling. But I just haven't enjoyed watching us this season. I always say, I said at the beginning of the season, there will be times where we don't qualify for Champions League football or Europa League football or even Conference League football. But when sometimes you can feel falling forwards where you're playing well, but you're just not getting over the line and the grass isn't going your way, where the rub of the green isn't going your way. So sometimes I can watch that and I think, yeah, I can see what we're doing moving forwards. I can see your vision. I can see gradually it will get better. But I'm just struggling to find that a little bit. And I've been criticized on my channel because it took me a long time to get to a point where I was just like, I'm sick of this. Like at first I was like, I'm going to let it go. I'm going to let it go. After the 2 defeats to Sunderland, I still wasn't saying, I'm sick of this. I'm bored of this. And I've been getting a lot of comments on my channel. So I want to get your guys' thoughts on this because people are saying to me that I've turned a little bit negative. And I just think, how can I sit here and say that performance against Fulham was good, for example? Like, how can I sit here and lie to you guys, like, in that sense? So I feel like this season just has been a little bit embarrassing when you think about the 2 defeats to Sunderland. But even if we're getting beat, the performances in the defeats, the manner and the way we're lost, that's what got me more than the defeats, because I just think we didn't give ourselves a fighting chance at least. And I think that's the one thing you ask for, is it just a little bit of courage, a little bit of bravery, a little bit of fight heart. And I'm sitting there when I'm making videos after a match, I'm genuinely approaching my videos like, don't actually want to do this because I'm just going to get stick in the comments. Do you know what I mean? So like, I wanted to get your guys' thoughts because I've given you mine. Like this season has been embarrassing for and again, I don't mind finishing bottom half because that happens. It's football. You're not always going to be successful. Nothing's linear. But the performances and some of the decision making with our squad and how it's been put together and what we're trying to do on the pitch, I'm just sitting there scratching my head a little bit. So I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on what I've had to say about it, even though I haven't went into too much detail. Yeah. So what's are you on the similar track as me or on a different track?
Boys, I don't know who wants to start on there. The one thing I will say, just really quickly, before any of you jump in, is that we've probably been the opposite to you, Antonio. Is it like, I don't think anyone's said that we've been negative. I think it's been the opposite, is that we've almost been told like that we haven't been negative enough throughout this season, that we haven't seen that.
I've had a few comments saying they agree with this and I haven't, but just recently I've had 1 or 2 saying like, you're changing your mindset. And I'm like, well, I've given it a go and it's got to a point where I'm just like, what can I say? What can I do? Like, I kind of defend some of the performances. I kind of defend some of the decision makings. And if I did, I'd be sitting here not being true to myself and I'd be disingenuous and probably insulting your intelligence. If you're watching my videos and I'm sitting there going, oh, it's been a great season. This has been quality. I've loved watching us. So I kind of just sit there and say that when like what am I meant to do here, guys? Do you know what I mean? So I just want to get your input because I like to gather other people's perspective, and it's quite hard when you're sitting there feeding information to get what other people are thinking. So I wanted to take this opportunity. Like, are you in the similar mindset as me? As if like you can't really see where we're going, and the performances haven't been good enough. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, first of all, Antonio, I'd say just be true to yourself and what you believe in and what you want to say, because you're not going to be, because you're not going to be able to please everybody, because there's going to be people that want Eddie out, want Eddie to stay, comparing to the Ashley years and so on and so forth. You just have to go with your own gut and what you think. And That's all you can do, and it's not trying to appease the masses. But just going back to the season, like and kind of linking to Pete, what Pete was saying, we were positive to a point through the season. I know myself, I called it in November after the West Ham Brentford defeats that we're not getting Champions League. Rule that out, and that one for me was the goal, and or to just narrowly miss out on it if we're going to miss out on it, and get sixth. That's what I predicted at the start of the season. But then it got really bad, and we didn't bring anyone in January, and we could have brought someone in January, and it kept eating away at the season really, and it was the only thing that was keeping us going, I suppose, was the cup runs. Rightly or wrongly, that Eddie Howe should have focused on cup runs, but that kept us going. And then once the Champions League ended, and the abrupt nature it did end as well, that was it. And then after the two defeats to Sunderland, and then the turning point for me anyway, and I know the lads as well, because we all actually came out in the same night and said that this something has changed here. Eddie needs to go. That was at after the Sunderland, the Crystal Palace result, because Crystal Palace were playing in Europe and putting everything into that, and they didn't care about the league, and their manager was going. Like it was, we had the 3 weeks training beforehand or something with no game. It was all built up. There was no excuses for. We had a few players missing. We didn't have Bruno, but everything was set up. And then we kind of said, yeah, we also believe now Eddie Howe should go. But then move on 2 weeks later, it became apparent that Eddie was going nowhere. Even though the CEO was saying, "Oh, we'll wait till the end of the season," but. Look, that was never going to happen. We kind of saw through that comment, and we might as well just get on with it and go with the rebuild under Eddie Howe. But there's nothing wrong with speaking your mind and going to the dark side of a bit of negativity every now and again as well. So, that's really it. That's just my kind of thought.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I just thought I didn't know if it was just me, like being far too negative. Do you know what I mean? So I just want to get a perspective from other people as well. But you are in the same boat as me that it has been an embarrassing season now. So there's no sugarcoating it, really, is it?
No, this is why it's important. Chris, where were you at? Obviously, Daz has shared his thoughts. I've got some particular things that I'll just jump in after you where my thoughts are. I'll keep mine just brief, but how are you feeling now you've had a few days to breathe life? Yeah. Now the season's finished. How are you feeling?
Do you know what? It was weird, Antonio, asking that question, because I was half hoping that we were going to get on this subject, because I'll be honest, Pete, and after what you've just said, and obviously listening to Daz summed it up really, really well, Antonio. So we were probably, I would argue, one of the last few channels or people, if you like, to kind of really go in on Eddie Howe. You know, we were always of the belief, me particularly, with my Europe hopes, and Daz and Pete will attest to that. I brought Pete over at one point as well, and Fryden was banging the drum for ages. But yeah, do you know what? I look back now on the season, and now the season's over. Pete, you're right. You know, you do start to see things a little bit differently now that it's over. We know we're 12th. We know that you know the season, there's been a line drawn in the sands, and I have to say, over the past 48 hours, you know, obviously I've read a lot of articles. I've been watching, you know, various content creators, other ones like Geordie Journos, yourself, Antonio, Matty from the Magpie channel, various ones. And do you know what? It's been a consistent theme from everybody. Yeah. We're all disappointed. We're all upset. And towards I think it was in the Fulham Reaction show, actually, you know, we all kind of resigned ourselves to the fact that Eddie Howe will most probably be staying. And there's people in the chat who say, no, he needs to go. I don't want him out. And I remember I rewound. This is now the season's over. I rewound weeks ago. And I remember us three lads on here going, no, but he's not going anywhere, guys. You know, he's not going to get sacked. We said consistently he wasn't going to leave before the end of the season. We said that. But I tell you now where my head's at. I want Eddie. I don't want Eddie Howe next season. I'm gonna stick my head out. No, I don't.
I would have thought, if I was to guess, I would have thought you, out of this panel, you would be the one that wanted to stay with him. That would have been my guess.
Do you know what?
I've heard you say Eddie Howe out, but I was expecting you, once the season had settled, to be like, do you know what? Give him another go. Let him. But I'm quite surprised by that, to be honest.
Do you know what, Antonio? And because again, going back to what I'd said months ago, whenever it was, I remember saying to the boys, and obviously to everyone watching, I remember saying I would hate Eddie, people to be calling for Eddie's head because of what he's brought us, what he's done for the club, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But when you look at those 38 games, and I'm mainly talking about the Premier League here, maybe put the cup competitions to one side, put the Champions League to one side, because I feel like we did reasonably well in those cup competitions and the Champions League. The league form is just not good enough. And I remember Georgie Jano's pointing out there's only 3 clubs who've lost more games than us, and those 3 clubs went down. We lost the same amount of games as Tottenham. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, if you detach yourself from this, you think to yourself, we spent 250 million in the summer, and you touched on it, Antonio, we're not seeing any hope. There's no hope.
Yeah.
And
That's exactly
even now, and maybe this isn't Eddie Howe's fault, but even now at the start of the summer, we're only 2 days in, and we're already hearing rumours of these Premier League players being linked. Now, that may not be at the fault of Eddie Howe, don't get me wrong, and we always say, don't we? But, mate, I can't have a Dominic Solanke, a bloody, I can't have it, or Liam Delap.
Yeah.
I can't have it. I can't.
I agree.
Do you know what, Antonio? Last thing I'll say before we go to Pete. Last thing I'll say is and I said this to the boys in the last few weeks. My biggest concern is us getting to October, us having to get rid of him and going, oh shit, yeah, we should have got rid of him, and that's my issue.
Brought in these players for Eddie Howe, and then
you write the season off, mate. You write the season off.
Yeah, you're
and
right.
and if you think about it, Antonio, this formation which Eddie's been staunch on, he's then gone to 4-2-3-1. Look at some of the things we were talking about in the last throes of the season. The player selection, the comments in the media. One thing we've always said about Eddie Howe consistently is media-wise, he is spot on. In the last few weeks, everyone has been tearing pieces off him, and that's not like Eddie Howe.
Right.
And I just don't want it to get to a point where people are literally, going for them. Like, we're already pretty much there.
Like a Steve Bruce point.
Yeah, it can get a lot worse, mate. And I just think
that is true.
I don't think half the squad are playing for them. And we're hearing all these things behind the scenes.
I'm glad you said that, because I look back at the comments of Bruno after the first Sunderland game, and I think that was it, because up until that game, we had a decent defensive record. We're working hard off the ball. After that game, we just fell to pieces. Now, up until the last game of the season, I haven't checked the stats afterwards, we'd conceded the most goals in 2026 in Europe. And Eddie Howe prides himself on defensive ability, being pragmatic, being defensively solid. He says it all the time. We've got to be defensively compact. And when you're conceding the most goals in Europe in 2026, when you think about all the teams that got relegated, Burnley, Wolves conceded 75 goals a season, but in 2026, we've conceded more. And I'm just like, what is going on? Like, either the players are not committed, or they've thought themselves they're just going to write the season off. Do you know what I mean? But, it's one or the other.
Do you not think that there was like a 2-week window where changing the manager, and we called it at the time, it wouldn't have been ideal, but it could have been done. But now they've got a CEO in place that's doing his job. They've got a sporting director in that's doing his job. They have a manager there. If they have all the pieces there to work properly this summer. Yeah. If they remove the manager now, we're back at ground. Unless the new manager coming in, and there's not a great, apart from Areola, there's not a great bucket of managers to choose from, especially the World Cup on as well, and it needs to be in now to get things moving. I don't know. I just cannot see it happening now.
I can't see him being sacked. I don't think.
But this has been our stance, and we've been kind of hammered for saying this. Is that he's not going anywhere. It's been absolutely clear for as far back as January that the club had no intentions of getting rid of Eddie Howe.
I know.
For me, when I lost faith in this season was when we drew 1-1 to Wolves. When you're drawing 0-0 to Wolves at Molineux, the worst team in the league, right? And I don't think we had a shot on target until about the 93rd minute when Bruno hits it straight at the goalkeeper.
You're
really,
right.
We should have done better. That's when I knew the season was done. When you don't put teams like that to the sword, you know.
And then your manager's saying, Pete, that you're playing well.
Yeah, you talked about it being a good point, like at the end of the game, and that just kind of feeds into everyone's anger and frustration. Where I knew, like sort of, I was done with the season and checked out was probably not long after that, but absolutely when we lost to Brentford, or maybe even Villa before that.
At home.
Whichever one was first, Villa or Brentford, I can't remember which one, but it was around the same time we played them. And it might have been Villa actually. But at that point, when we lost at St James's Park, I think it might have been to Aston Villa. That was when
25th of January.
Yeah. So I was just like, I'm like, this season's over. Like, it's done. Like, just end the season now. Get me to the summer, because we weren't going to see anything different. The moment that I knew that, or the moment that I knew within myself that Eddie Howe probably isn't the right man for this job, was when we lost the derby the second time round. Watching those players, particularly in that second half, first half wasn't so bad, but with a better team, probably should have gone in 2-0 when Botman hits the post with a really good header. But the way that second half transpired really concerned me. And it didn't just concern me in that moment. It concerned me to what I was going to see in the future with this Newcastle United team. And unfortunately for me and for you, for Daz, Chris, and everyone that's watching, all the Newcastle fans, we've seen the reality of what was to come after that defeat.
Yeah.
Because what should have been, and what normally is under Eddie Howe, a team that's fighting back, ready to show that they're committed and they're here for the cause, we saw nothing of the like. We saw absolutely nothing of the like. And it was in that moment when I stood there in St James's Park and I watched those players do that walk around, right? And I saw the fans in the Gallagate literally telling Eddie and the players to F off and get off the pitch. I knew Eddie's not getting this fan base back. I'm sorry.
Do you not think?
He's not getting this fan base back. We could have a great season and get Champions League.
The thing is, also
have a significant part of the fan base that will not go back to him. This fan base is broken, and it's happened all within a season. There's been rumbles of discontent going back to December 23, January 24, where we lost it away to Anfield, and we had all those kind of issues. And the only thing that partly mended it is when we beat Sunderland in the cup. But we had all those problems where we're losing games. We lost to Luton before, then we lost to Forest, and then we lost to Liverpool, and we went through those defeats. And that's when the rumble started with Eddie Howe about some fans wanting him out. It's grown and grown and got bigger at that point. But this season has broken the fan base. The fan base is absolutely split pretty much down the middle. And I'll actually say it's probably going towards 60, 70, 30 now in terms of fans wanting him out. I don't believe this fan base will properly come back together until Eddie Howe's gone. That's just my opinion on it. I don't think this fan base, we won't see what we saw in the early parts in that first 3.5 years of the fan base totally as one, totally together until Eddie Howe's gone. Because we'll have good moments and fans will be happy that we're winning matches, and we will win matches next season. And I believe that we will be up there challenging for European football. But the difference is when we don't win a match, it'll be, he's not the man. He's not the man for this job.
So.
Get him out. Told you 3 years ago he needed to go. And look, one game a week and he's still losing matches. Get out. I said it a couple of weeks ago. Eddie Howe is going to get no leeway next season. No leeway. Every game that he loses is going to be massively scrutinized. right? And some people can argue rightly so, and yeah, to a point, rightly so. He'll get massively scrutinized. He will not get back that sort of like untouchable figure that he was in those first 3 years. He will not get that back. He doesn't realize how much this season has damaged his outlook to the whole for him to the whole fan base, and how the whole fan base look at him. People still like him as a person. People still like him as a manager. People will still want the best for the club, but there'll be those that will go along with the games and they'll support the team, etc., and do what we all normally do, but they'll still have it in the back of their mind. He ain't the man.
Yeah.
And they'll wait.
It's the same. It's the same for the squad, Pete. It's exactly the same for the squad, and I genuinely believe. I think at least 70% of this squad are fed up. I genuinely do. Now you can get rid of that 30% by all means, but sorry, I've got my maths wrong there. But you can argue you can get rid of 30% of the squad, but you're still going to have that nucleus of players who are still not happy. And as soon as it starts again, they're going to go 4-3-3 again. Oh, he's dropping him again. Oh, he's not playing him again. You can see it across the whole team. You can see it.
Yeah, I mean, you only have to go back to the Fulham game, and I don't want to keep going back to this, but it's important that we kind of have this almost like a end of season debrief of how we feel about things. But you only have to go back to the lineup against Fulham, and you only have to look at how they're lined up when they're kicking off, and you just go through the timeline of social media, and you go through your own group chats, and people are going 5 at the back. And you know what? I was doing the same. I was looking at it going, we're playing Fulham, who are rubbish and are basically on the beach, and we're going 5 at the back, 3 centre-backs? Are you kidding me? I said it on a reaction as well. It's like, what are you doing? You had a formula that's just absolutely wiped the floor with West Ham. You had a formula that looked much better at Forest, even though we didn't win, and it was getting the likes of Voltemada in the team and playing in the position where you want him to play. And then all you've done is gone 5 at the back to shoehorn Dan Burn and Jacob Murphy, and 2 players that nobody wants to see starting matches at Newcastle United. And all of a sudden, you're now pretty much dragging Voltemada back in as a midfielder, and all you're doing is isolating your striker that scored a shed load of goals for you recently. And neither player really did anything in the game because of it.
Can I say something about that West Ham and Fulham game?
Go for it.
Because I said this in my reaction after the West Ham game. I genuinely believe West Ham played into our hands and made us look better than what we did. I actually said after the West Ham game, we'll know more about this team and the way we're playing against Fulham than anything else. Because if you look at our record against the back 3, in our last 18 games against the back 3, we've only lost once. Even Ruben Amorim, who's notorious for playing a back 3, when we rock up to Old Trafford, he plays with the back 4 and beats 1-0. Because our formation, whether we've got the best players or the more talented players, the most effective formation against the back 3 is a 4-3-3. Because you create overloads either in the wide areas or in the central areas. So you've got the advantage even before you step out on the pitch. That's my opinion. And the records show that, because when a 4-3-3 comes up against the back 3, you can manipulate their position. So it's all about forcing them in uncomfortable positions. You go back and watch our West Ham game. We were dragging their centre-backs out of their position. If they were playing in the back 4, that would have never happened.
That's
why they changed.
What I cannot understand is going to a back 3 once we had a positive result against West Ham. But what I also want to point out is another reason why I think the players are a little bit disinterested with the tactics. Mango's caught the sun. Is because go back and watch Anthony Gordon's interview after the Sunderland game, the second Sunderland game, and we got beat 2-1. I beat the drum, and I have all season, about finding the spare man. The most important thing in football, when you're attacking and want to create attacking patterns, is by finding the spare man. So you've got to know pretty much what you're going to do in certain situations before you even step out on the pitch of finding the spare man. Anthony Gordon says, they're not a better team than us. That's what he said. And then he said, but we don't know how to find the spare man. And that's where I'm starting to think the players look a bit bored and aren't buying into what Eddie Howe was trying to do, because you don't come out and say that in the media if you're 100% committed and believe in the tactics moving forward. He simply said, we're not good enough to find the spare man. Now, it's up to Eddie Howe to create those principles, behaviours and patterns on how to find that spare man and teach these players how to do it as a collective. And that was the moment I thought Eddie Howe's really the players are really finding these tactics a little bit negative to what they're used to. Whereas Anthony Gordon, he's a player that wants to get on the ball and just take a risk, go and beat his man. But it seems like to me, we're asking them to do more defensive work than we are attacking work. And that's what gets me. I think when we realised that we couldn't get relegated and couldn't get Europe, why didn't we just allow the players to enjoy themselves, get on the ball, take a risk? But against Fulham, again, it was pragmatic. It was 5 at the back. It was just go and allow the players to enjoy themselves. Let them play that last game with a bit of freedom. I'm not saying just run everywhere like a headless chicken, but saying them, go and have a go, lads. Go and enjoy yourself. Go and do what you specialise in. If Harvey Barnes wants to get on the ball and beat his man, go and do it. Go and enjoy yourself. Because for me, it's all about once the players start enjoying the football, you'll get the best out of them. But you need to create that platform where they enjoy the football. And just after that Anthony Gordon interview, I seen him say, we're not good enough to find the spare man. We don't know how to find the spare man. That's when I thought the players don't believe in what Eddie Howe was telling them to do anymore. And that's when I thought, like, this season's only going to go one way.
And to touch on what you just said then as well, Antonio, looking again, I know we keep focusing on this Fulham game, but you then see he sets up with the 5 at the back, and then he's making various subs, and every sub you're going, hang on, what's happening here? Hall was left wing back, then he was left back, then he was right back, then Wissa comes on, he's playing in the centre of midfield. Murphy gets dragged at half time, could have told you he wasn't going to work.
When you're rotating players that much, it just goes to show that you haven't got, because football's built on profiles and relationships. You're meant to build that relationship on the pitch, and that's how, from an attacking point of view, that's how you get the best out of them. But when you're rotating players and changing to a back 5 to a back 4, it's hard to build those relationships because you're playing in an uncomfortable position as it is. And this goes back to the January transfer window. Why didn't we bring in a fullback? Because now Miley's got injured, Tino's got injured, and we've had to play Lewis Hall at right back and play Dan Burn at left back. And it goes back to the principles of the January transfer window. And what the I'm going on a little rant here, guys, sorry.
No,
what
go for
the journalists come out and said, well, Ross Wilson said, and I've got the screenshot on my channel. He come out and said, well, there's money to spend, but we'll only spend it if we can bring summer transfers in early, in terms of January. Ryan Victor was available. Now, according to the journalists, we were waiting for the summer to buy him. But if Ross Wilson's saying there's money to spend, and if we can, we'll only bring the summer plans in early, what we're doing?
Exactly.
Like, why are we making these decisions? And then it goes, like, the players will say this, the players will notice this and be like, are we really going anywhere? Where's this ambition going?
Doing?
They'll see Ryan Victor thriving in Bournemouth and being like, we could do with a player like that. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, they'll know this sort of thing. They're not daft. And it's like, you cannot just wait in football because it's going to catch up with you eventually. And we're waiting for Ryan Victor, according to the journalist. We're waiting till the summer to buy him. And Bournemouth stepped in. Just be brave, go and get him because he's going to impact the season. He'll probably help you get into European football because since he's come into Bournemouth, I know it's not all down to him, but Bournemouth hasn't lost a game while he's been on the pitch in the Premier League. Now, I know it's not all down to him and they're a good side, but that just goes to show football and waits for nobody. Like, we've got to be a little bit ambitious. We've got to put ourselves first, not just wait and kick the can down the road and expect them to still be there in the summer. Like, that's because we're getting two mixed messages as a fan base, and we're sitting there being like, well, where are we? What are we doing here? Are we ambitious, or we're just happy with where we are at the minute? And that's how I see it.
Antonio, we the last time we were even slightly ambitious was when we went and got Anthony Gordon in the January transfer window. And yes, it didn't affect us in the 6 months after that. But look at what that did the year after. He had his best season at Newcastle United. He got into England off the back of that. He went to the Euros off the back of that. And what you do, you allow your team to know that we're not just going to stand still. I'm not being funny. That squad of players must have been looking around at each other going, we've got players falling every week, injuries after injuries. They must have been just crying out and going, Eddie, like Ross, David, we need some help here. Like, we're struggling and we've got matches every 3 days. Give us some players to work with. And they've gone, no, we'll wait till the summer. Well, I'm sorry, that at this point is when we knew that they weren't serious about this season, that they basically given up. Because we were told by, and he's no longer here, but we were told by Mirdad Gadusi that we were going to improve every single window. We went 5 windows without signing anyone, right? And we thought this was going to be different now. We went and spent a load of money in the summer. We thought we were going to then improve in January and then go back to the summer and improve again. Because that's what the best teams do. Every team that's worth their salt will improve, right? Yeah. Man City will improve. Yes, they might have more money than us, but they will always try and make maneuvers in terms of moving players on and getting players in. And if people don't want the Man City comparison, I'll give you Aston Villa. Aston Villa, for the last 2 windows, the 2 January windows, have gone out there and they've maximized every penny that they possibly could to ensure that they could consistently and constantly improve their squad. So 2 years ago, or a year ago, when they were in the Champions League,
Rashford
they went out and get Rashford, Asensio, Marlon, and they went out there and went, you know what, we're going to attack this season and we're going to get players that can improve us for the second half of the season so we can go again. Even in this January, when they were in the Europa League, they didn't stand still. They went again and moved on Marlon. So they got their sale in there and got their move for their player for 20-odd million. And then they go and get Tammy Abrahams. Doesn't matter whether we rate Tammy Abrahams or not. They've looked at a situation and gone, we need a significant piece of quality to come in here to supplement the team. And they've gone and done it. And they've gone and improved the squad again. That is where we've just got a lack of ambition. That's where we've got a lack of nous and understanding of what we need in the transfer market, right? And it goes back to another point as well, and a point that really annoys me, particularly about Eddie Howe, is that he doesn't consider loan signings. And yes, a loan fee is expensive. It can be at times. But I tell you what, it's a great way of getting someone in the door that's hungry, that wants to prove their worth, and actually could turn out to be a great piece of investment if you get a good loan out of somebody and then you can turn it into a positive because they've already had 6 months at your club. They already know your processes and they know the way you work. So if it makes it into a permanent signing, they're ready to hit the ground running again next season, which again is what other teams are doing that we don't. We are too naive as a management team and as a hierarchy. We are far too naive for us to make those jumps as quick as we would like to. There are problems here.
Is this not where we're gonna? Is this not the summer though that changes and we kick on? We have the pieces of the jigsaw in place, and especially in Ross Wilson to wheel and deal, get the deals done, incomings and outgoings. We haven't. Okay, it's only a few days old with the season finishing, but like he has to prove himself this summer.
If I'm being honest, and I've said this, I think we'll have a decent summer. I think we will, honestly, because we have got that structure in place now. Now, last summer, I'm going to be brutally honest. When a manager's ringing an agent, the agent's probably looking at him thinking, what the hell is going on at that club? So I'm not surprised players rejected us left, right, and centre. I'm going to be honest, because most agents have a very good relationship with sporting directors. Ross Wilson will have a very, very good relationship with agents, specific ones. Some he might not get on with. He will probably not sign the players that are within his agency, but they'll all have. And when it comes to agents and sporting directors, sometimes it's do me a favour by signing this player and we'll do you a favour later on down the line. So like they've got that kind of relationship where favours happen and things like that. But when a manager is ringing an agent and trying to do a deal, the agent, I know how they think. They'll be thinking, what the hell is going on at that club? You don't want to be going there. Regardless if they like the club, if they think the club's a big club, they'll be like, I haven't got, Like, if they've got their best mate who's a sporting director ringing them, and then they've got Eddie Howe ringing them who they've never spoke to before, you're probably going to trust your best mate a little bit more, aren't you? Who you've built a relationship with. And that's so I kind of give Eddie Howe a little bit of a pass last summer because it is a little bit difficult when you're relying on yourself to build those relationships very early. But again, this goes back to the ownership. So I do think we'll have a little bit more structure about with this summer, being brutally honest. I think we will. But again, going into next summer, the thing that worries me is the tactics really more than anything. Going to be honest.
Can Howe, off the back of a good summer, can Howe implement the tactics? Can he get the players who he's got at the moment on board?
We've brought in more technical players this summer, more than any other summer. Nick Valdemara, Jacob Ramsey. Jacob Ramsey's not a runner. He wants to get on the ball and make things happen. He wants to play between the lines. That's his speciality. So, like, that's the type of player he is. I think, and I haven't even, how can I put this without sounding so negative? Like, I don't mind him trying things and it not coming off. Like, I don't mind them trying patterns and things like that. And I'm like, oh, I can see what you're trying to do. It's nearly there. If we keep on working at that, we'll probably get it right. But for these past, like, 10 games, I'm struggling to see what, on the pitch, we're trying to keep the ball, but we're continuing that running style that looks a little bit messy. And I'm like, what direction are you trying to go in? I think we really need to commit to a direction, if that makes sense, because it just looks a little bit messy at the minute. And the profiles aren't really working. I'm struggling to figure out what we're trying to do. And that worries us more than the transfer window itself, to be brutally honest. Because the worst thing you can do is bring in a profile of players that don't complement each other. Then you're in a bigger mess than what you were in. So I think we need to figure out the identity of the football club and how we want to play next season before we even think about a summer target. That's my opinion.
Well, that's what we hope is the case. And that's why Fulham was even more of a disappointment, because we saw completely different away from what we thought we were.
Because he had a free hit.
Yeah.
He had a free hit.
And he'd already played a system that seemed to be working. Yeah. And then it's just nothing's just happened again. He's gone back to Fulham and the same things happened again. This is why, for me, I've been saying, people have been coming back to me and saying, well, there's no guarantee that Ross Wilson does great in the window and has a great summer this time of year. But for me, I'm putting all my faith in Ross Wilson signing the players, because I know he'll be able to get the job done. But I'm not convinced that everything else after that is gonna work out. I'm living on hope. I've used that word hope. I don't know with any assurity that we're going to come back next season and we're going to come back fighting and come back flying, because I don't know whether the tactics are going to be right. I'm going to be nervous about the setup and how we start the season. Who's going to be starting? Is it going to be Byrne? Is it going to be Murphy if they're still at the club? You know, I've got no idea. Like, I'm genuinely, it's a genuine concern. It's a genuine concern, because we can't afford. We have no excuses here. We're not in Europe. We're not in Europe. Everyone out there is going to be billionaires to be a Champions League fighting team next season. Everyone's going to put pressure on us, because
Chelsea, everybody's going to.
Chelsea will be there fighting again, and they did it having not had European football. You've got Man United that have done it last season, so there's going to be an expectation that we are going to be back there. There is going to be that expectation that's going to be put on Eddie Howe and the players, not us, not pressure on us, but that pressure is going to be put on Eddie Howe and the players from the jump. I'm not convinced, and I've not seen enough, because obviously we've not seen the summer pan out yet, that they are going to do that. I'm putting my hope in Ross Wilson, that he gets the players in, that fills me with a little bit more hope to go, actually, these players are damn good players and that could make a difference. Then I'm in a position where I'm feeling a little bit more confident. Now, Powell's just put in, Mitchell was 100% correct. He may well have been, but he was part of our downfall. And I've said it on this channel before, and I'll say it again. Okay? Because Paul Mitchell left the club, not just Eddie Howe, but the club high and dry. And we had 2 deals, Trafford and João Pedro, that were lined up and ready to go with no competition at that point. And he did nothing with those deals. So I'm not bigging up Mitchell are going, oh, he was right. He was the greatest since sliced bread, because he wasn't. He was part of our downfall too. He's part of the reason why we're in that mess. So he doesn't get a pass and things are all okay. Far from it.
What we need is a master technician like young Mango there. He came on to do one show. He nearly finished part 2 and he's on course for a part 3. That's what I like to see. That's good. That's a good tactic.
About one player. Sorry, guys. I went down a rabbit hole.
It's good conversation.
It's been a great discussion. Yeah.
I think it's fascinating though, because there is I understand where people are coming from that say Eddie Howe deserves another chance. I get it. And I get it where people are coming from when they say Eddie Howe was sacked. There's no right or wrong. You can have your opinion, and everybody's deserving of their opinion. I would never try and change somebody's opinion or anything like that. But so I can see both sides of the coin, because Eddie Howe has been great for us. But my based off history, and you can only go off history, is that I think Eddie Howe was perfect to get us to this point, but we need to go to that point. Do you know what I mean? If we are serious about this 2030 vision, then we need to be serious in-house. Now, I'm not saying we need to sack Eddie Howe, but we need to see an evolution of the tactics. We can't carry on what we're doing because it's obviously not working. Do you know what I mean? Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over. And I just feel like this season, we've just tried the same thing over and over and over and over again. It's just not worked. So we've got to see something different next season. Otherwise, it's just going to go the same direction.
And do you know what, Antonio? You're right in what you say, and touching on what Pete said earlier. There's no excuse next season. You've got Liverpool, who are not going to be as bad as they were this season. You've got Man City, who are going to be trying to improve themselves under Maresca. You've got Chelsea, you've got Alonso. You've got Arsenal, who are going to want to go back to back. And other clubs are going to improve. But there is an expectation, and we as a fan base, I think it's fair to say, because I'm thinking, well, if we have a strong summer and we bring in the right players, I'm looking at Eddie Howe going, I'm on top 5. We've only got one game a week. I'm on top 5. And if he doesn't reach that expectation, or he doesn't get to where we want him to get to, it's going to go October, November. We're going to be scrapping round, bringing someone in. The new manager's going to come in and go, yeah, guys, yes, sounds, but I'm not going to be able to do anything this season. I haven't worked with the players. So you're going to have to give me this season off. So then that's another season that you wipe out, potentially with no European football, unless he does an absolute miracle. And then already we're in the 27-28 season. And we're going, hang on, this 2 years that we've just not been in Europe. What are we doing? Yeah. Players are looking and going, do we really want to get on board with that? Is this the club who said they were going to be challenging by 2030? Look at them. That's my big concern. It's what Eddie Howe does next season. And like I say, I don't dislike Eddie Howe. I love Eddie Howe for what he's done for the club. But I kind of feel, and we said this at the start of the season, boys, we did say this, for us, no European football is cut, done, off. This has actually been worse than what we were all anticipating. We were all going, oh, imagine we finish 8th. Oh, yeah, we can't have that. We finished 12th. And at one point, there was suggestions that we could go down. That's how bad it's been.
I think it's natural to have some uncertainty going into next season. If you don't have any uncertainty, then you're not facing reality. I think it's natural to have that uncertainty, because this squad does need a big overhaul, massively, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of players there. There's a lot of dead wood that are aging, getting older, getting frequently injured because they're getting older. We need to have that. I explained it like this. We need to drop an air freshener into the changing room and just give everybody a little lease of a new energy, a new little bit of life, whether that be Eddie Howe himself or the players himself, because I just think both together it's went a little bit stale. We need to have that changeover. We need to have that transition, in my opinion. But you've got to have uncertainty going into next season. You can't just say it's going to be a wonderful season, because based off evidence on this season, it hasn't been. Now, it'll probably only get better, but how much is the big question. So it's only natural to be, I'm a little bit unsure about next season. So I think that's just a natural intake to have as a fan.
And I'm glad you said that, because there's been a couple of comments put in the chat with regards to this. It's just mad. So Bill Bennett is just put up there, wake up, Pete, just from my comments alone, even though we've all said the same thing, by the way. We've literally all said the same thing. So apparently I'm a fickle fan because I've got concerns about the manager going into next season. Well, Bill, wake up, because there's so many people in this chat that have said exactly what Antonio's just said, exactly what I've just said, exactly what Daz has just said, and exactly what Chris has just said. We've all said the same thing. We've all said the same thing. And you only have to go on social media to hear thousands of others saying exactly the same. Fans are concerned about next season because the manager has significantly failed. The players have significantly failed. We are worried about where our standing is going into next season. We are allowed to be a little bit concerned because, yes, we have gone from winning a cup to finishing 12th and out of Europe. So it is right that we are allowed to be concerned. Not everyone can just be banging on the Eddie Howe drum is the greatest thing since sliced bread, because in reality, he isn't. And he's proven that this season. Before a ball was kicked in August 2025, you could have made that point and I'd have been right there with you, Bill. But the reality is times have moved on and things have changed, as what happens in football. And he went on to say something about fans. I'll try and find it. Fan bases. Oh no, it wasn't about it. It was something else. Sorry, I took the chat off it.
I think you hit the
fans don't pick the team, and with it, we can't pick 25 players every week. Nobody said about fans picking teams. Nobody said about playing 25 players. All we're doing is sharing an opinion on how we feel about our football club. It just so happens that all four of us agree, and we're all singing from the same energy. I
think you used the right word there, and I think the word from this season is standard. Because if you're looking back at that, the season we've just had, and thought that was acceptable, then our standards are on the floor. I'm sorry, if we want to be a big club by 2030, and then looking at that season and not saying we need better standards, then what are we doing as a fan base? We may as well not be fans, because if you're just accepting that. Now, I'm not saying we've got to get rid of Eddie Howe or go and shoot somebody. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying you're allowed to criticize when criticism is due, and it's been due this season, not just for Eddie Howe, the players themselves as well, because some of the attitude I've seen on the pitch, I've looked at it and I thought your body language stinks. So it's not just about Eddie Howe, it's about the collective. Yeah. It's about the whole collective. And I think if you don't have those standards, then you'll never be able to go to the next level, because it's like in anything in life, if you just don't have any standards for yourself, you're never going to reach what you're planning on reaching. And that says the same about the football. So we can't just sugarcoat the season and be like, oh, Eddie Howe, you've done perfect this season. The players have been perfect this season, because it just simply hasn't been. I want to rant a little bit because I don't do many live shows like this, and all of it's on recording, so I kind of picky with my words. But this time I'm just like, we'll have to have a bit of standards. Like, I'm not saying we need to be Man City and win the league every 4 years in a row. That's not what I'm expecting. But I'm just expecting a little bit. When things go bad, somebody takes a little bit of accountability and says, look, it hasn't been good enough. So next season, we want to improve, and this is how we're going to improve. It's not even just saying it. I want to see a plan. We'll have to put a plan together, because if you're accepting what's going on at the minute, then we're just going to regress or either stay still. And if you stay still in football, you're taking 5 steps backwards, because everybody else will be taking 2 steps forward, or at least trying to take 2 steps forward. Sometimes it might take 1 step backwards to take 2 steps forward. But you see my point of view here. And I'm not saying sack everybody. Everybody needs to leave. Sack the board. Sack Eddie Howe. That's not what we're saying. Because if Eddie Howe was next season, I'm going to back him. I'm not going to sit after every video and saying I'm get rid of him. That's not my style. I'll criticize when it's been due. If we had a good season, I'd be like, Eddie Howe, thank you very much. You've had a great season. Looking forward to next season. But it hasn't been like that. And I just think some people need to have a little bit of reality, be balanced in what you're trying to say, because we cannot look back at this season and say it's a good season. And I just have to get that off my chest, because I've been getting the same in my comments, the saying like Eddie Howe can do no wrong. What? Like, nobody's perfect. I nearly swore there. I get stuff wrong in my video consistently, and like you kind of just have those sorts of standards have got to be higher, especially when you're in a privileged position. Because when you're in a position of power like Eddie Howe, you deserve to get criticism when things aren't going right. Not after one game. You can lose one game. You can play bad in one game. Not after 2, 3, 4 games. I'll let him off after 4 games. But when it gets over 38 games, and we probably hasn't really played well once this season, then you've got to look back at the situation and be like, come on, we need a little bit better. Like, that's my opinion. Because if we don't shout about it, the players and the manager will just be like, yeah, we're not getting criticism. They'll take it easy. Do you know what I mean? And that's that. I just had to get that off my chest. Sorry, guys. And sorry for being negative, but I had to.
You've turned the show on its head, because I know when you messaged me earlier and you said about you wanted to have this discussion, I didn't think we'd be going sort of 45 minutes into this discussion. But
no,
you know what? I'm really glad you have, because I think it's been needed. It's probably a conversation we've needed to have that wasn't really there. But Daz just put a poll on just to say, there's a question there. Will Eddie Howe be Newcastle United manager in 1 year's time? Put your opinion in.
This time next year, after the end of the season.
So will he be manager still at Newcastle United? Do you think he will? Do you think he won't be? Give your opinion in it. We've got nearly 800 people on multiple platforms watching live right now. So thank you all for tuning in. If you're on YouTube, give us a like. If you're on X, come over to YouTube and give us a like, give us a hype. Make sure you subscribe to Antonio Mango's channel as well, who produces some fantastic content as an under-23 scout. So make sure you're subscribing to both channels on there. I just want to come back to Bill Burnett's question, a comment from our from our rebuttal, should we say. So it seems to me that Eddie gets the blame for everything when much of it isn't his job. And look, there is context to that. And look, Bill, you may not have watched this channel over the last year, and that's absolutely fine if you haven't. But we've laid out that context consistently of where he was doing things that maybe he shouldn't have been, and maybe things aren't his fault. Paul Mitchell's another thing, another reason why we're in this mess. That's not Eddie Howe's fault. That's down to Paul Mitchell. But there are other people responsible too. You know, the hierarchy for not improving in January. But for us, we probably got to about March, mid-March, end of March, before we turned around and went, you know what? Yeah, this isn't good enough from the manager. This isn't good enough from the group of players. It probably took us that long, Bill, to get to that point. Yeah. So we've been very much, behind Eddie Howe a lot longer than many other fans. But when you're seeing things week in, week out, and I'm not talking about signings, I'm not talking about things getting pulled under the rug from Eddie Howe. I'm talking about team selection. I'm talking about substitutions. I'm talking about system change. Antonio Mango made a great point regarding this about the chopping and changing of multiple players. Chris mentioned it as well against Fulham. I'll raise you one and go back as far as West Ham and Brentford back in November, where you knew the game was up after 60 minutes because he was just making random subs and players not even knowing what positions they're in. That's when you know a manager doesn't know what he's doing with his team. And we let that slide as a channel. We called it out, but we didn't make it an issue. But when you're doing it all season, it's a case of, you know what, enough's enough. You can't keep doing this. You can't keep making these same mistakes. And fans are calling it out. And journalists and media are calling it out. But yet you're still making the same mistakes and you're still failing in those decisions. And it's his right to do it, but we're seeing it and it's not getting any better. And that's why we're concerned, because we don't want those same mistakes being made next season, because we cannot afford another season of mistakes. And that's kind of where we're at. There's concern.
And you know what? The harsh reality, sorry, Pete, I was going to say the harsh reality is, and it goes back to, it goes back to business. It goes back to the way businesses are done. Unfortunately, it rests on the head of the manager. As harshly as that is, now there is caveats, there is reasons. You can go back to the sporting director, you can go back to the CEO, you can blame the owners, as Pete's just mentioned, about people not coming in and doing the job that they were bought, or what the job that they are there to do, and that fell on Eddie Howe. Yes, You can blame the fact that Alexander Isak left and Eddie Howe didn't want him to go. That is also a factor. There's many, many factors throughout. But unfortunately, the job of the manager at a football club is to get results on the pitch, and the results are not happening. Now, Antonio made a good point earlier, when he said, if you look back over the course of the 38 games, and I was thinking about this, Antonio, when he said it, do you know the one game that I would hang my hat on last season where I said, you know what, I enjoyed it. I saw what we were trying to do. I saw the effort. I saw the determination. It's probably Liverpool at the very start of the season when we lost in the last minute against Rio and Gamoa. We were pressing. We were hungry. We were, we wanted.
Gordon got sent off.
Yeah.
Do you want to know why?
But the commitment was there. Go on, Mango. Go on.
Because we do our best work on emotions. Our team is full of emotions, whether that be energy from the crowd, whatever. This is how I see it. How can I put this? So, when we were building out from relegation to overachieve, what we needed to do was make the game emotional, make the game a 50-50 battle, where neither side is really setting in their rhythm. That's where we do our best work. Because we do our best work when the game's broken. Because when the game's broken, the opposition are out their shape. We don't know how to break them down. We don't have attacking patterns set. So our main job and main focus is when we're energetic and committed, we're excellent at breaking up the game. That's Eddie Howe's specialty. But that breaking up the game can only get you so far, because there's a reason why all the teams that win the league or finish in Champions League or whatever always dominate possession, because that's how you dominate games, by keeping the ball off your opposition so your opposition won't score. Eddie Howe's thought process going in every game is stopping the opposition getting into their rhythm rather than creating attacking patterns into getting into our rhythm. So when there's games like Liverpool, when it's on emotion, we're usually winning those games because the game's broken. So they can't get in any rhythm. So they can't move the ball in what they want to try and do. Does this all make sense?
Yeah.
And then,
Absolutely.
So to be an elite team, you've got to understand attacking patterns and how to. The job of every manager is to create weaknesses in the opposition and draw them out and play to your strengths. But so when there's games like Liverpool and it's full of emotion, we're usually good at them because we're making the game a 50-50 battle. Look over Eddie Howe's past. Every game that we win when we're not really expected to win, the Man Cities, the Arsenals, the Liverpools, we barely have possession because we're just making the game a 50-50 duel. So when the game's a 50-50 duel, that's when we come out the game thinking, we were excellent today. We weren't excellent on the ball. We never played sexy football. We just made the game a battle. Look over, we've got one of the highest dueling rates every single season under Eddie Howe. This is why I think we need to come away from that and learn how to dominate games, because other teams are getting better and we need to evolve as well into getting better. Does this all make sense? All the data's there to look at it, because we very rarely, when we win a game of football, have more possession. It's all a battle. And that's good for the likes of Everton, Crystal Palace, where you're at a certain point. In some seasons, you might finish above your means. Some seasons, you might finish below your means. And you're there or thereabouts. But we cannot afford to keep on doing this. We've got to come away from that mindset and stop coming out with emotions and learn how to take the game away from the opponents by keeping possession. That's the only way we're going to move to the next level, in my opinion. Because not every game is going to go to a 50-50 duel.
Isn't that all though part of the Eddie Howe style, like coming up from Bournemouth, bringing them up in multiple divisions, that the were the underdog going in against the opposition? Look at the PSG game, the best game you were ever at in your life, Pete. The PSG game would be similar as well. Like it rings home what you're saying there about the emotion factor, Antonio. It probably as well, boys. Why we're Newcastle fans, especially me, because I got the emotion from Kevin Keegan, the passion. That's what drew me to Newcastle in the first place when I was 11. It was that emotion. This is before the rants and I would love it and all that kind of stuff. But that's what we're built on. as well.
It's what the club's built on, but the reality is as much as it's built on that, and the fan base is built on that. I hope you can still hear me. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can still hear you, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I froze a little bit, so that's why. As much as the club and the fan base is built on that, and Eddie Howe said it, he uses the fans and our emotion to almost inspire the rest of his players to be able to perform. But the problem is, that's not going to think is what Antonio is trying to say, is that raw emotion and what you're saying, that underdog tag, it's got us so far, and it won us a trophy, and it was the best day of our lives. Winning that trophy, it's been decades in the making. We won that, and we earned it on that day, playing that way. But it's only going to get you so far. What you need is a system that's systematically kind of evolved, where you're a possession-based team, that you know how to control games, because that's when you become a dominant force. You're going to have to look at the teams above us, and you could talk about money and signings or whatever, but you go back to the game that Chris talked about, the Liverpool game. As much as we were brilliant that night, we still lost. Yeah, because what happened is that the best teams go through moments where they struggle against that raw emotion and that passion, but they've got the intelligence to work it out and to grab hold of the game again. And that's exactly what Liverpool did. Is that they went, wow, flipping out, 2-2. Right, let's regroup. Let's get hold of the ball. Let's keep possession. Let's make it difficult for them and put the pressure on them. That's exactly what happened. And they picked us apart in the end. Lovely little move. And Rio scored the winning goal. The best teams are intelligent teams, and they know how to figure things out. And it's not the manager having to do that on the pitch. It's the players being able to figure it out themselves. And there's been a lot of times this season that Eddie Howe's already said that players haven't listened to his methods. He wants them to be all out attack. They're holding the ball and doing pass on the back line, and fans are getting frustrated by it. There's all of these problems that need to be fixed. It's not just a case of, right, players come in and everything's going to be magically better. This is why it goes back to the manager needs to come with a system that works, and he needs to be able to ensure that tactically in game we are better. Because if we want to be the team we want to be long term, and if David Hopkinson wants to achieve that 2030, which is looking less and less likely by the week, he needs to make sure that he's producing a team that's able to do that. So that's kind of where it's at for me at this point. We haven't talked about one player tonight. We might have to. We might have to.
We'll get him on again. We'll get him on again.
Part three. We'll have to rearrange the promotion of this show. But look, we've got a full summer of player names and discussions and talks. And I don't know if there's a few questions that we want to throw at Antonio. We will promise you a part 3, whether it's next week or whenever. We'll arrange it. We'll see when Antonio.
Transfer deadline day.
Love that. Yeah, love that.
We will do a part 3.
Love that.
Can't see because me camera, one of the best. I appreciate you, Ali. Thank you very much.
Love it, Ali.
Absolutely true.
I know it's been a little bit negative, and I just want to end on this, right? I'll back Eddie out next season, but the only thing I've got to see is that evolution, because I really don't think we take that next step unless we take that evolution in terms of tactics. So I just want to end on that. Like, I'll back him if he's 100%.
Yeah. I mean, do you know what, Antonio? You're absolutely right. We'll all back him. We all want him to succeed. He brought us our first trophy in 70 years. There's no doubt. I think we're just actively talking about the fact that based on the 38-game Premier League season that we've just seen, it's whether or not he can do that. And what we don't want to do is get to September, October and go, oh, shit, yeah, we knew this would happen.
Yeah.
And then you write the season off.
Yeah,
right. We're back on you tonight as well, Chris.
Blow, chicka, blow, blow.
Say no more. Say no more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We did have some super chats, boys. So I'm gonna tropical fruit is speaking sense. I like that.
I love that.
we have had some super chats in, so we'll go straight to the super chats. Emily Scott, thank you so much for your super chat, Emily. Emily says, neither Murphy or Byrne would get anywhere near any other team who had serious ambition. Every week is so frustrating. Can't disagree with that.
100%. It's hard to disagree. Very hard to disagree.
Emily, just spot on. Absolutely spot on. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. We have attacker number 2. Thank you for your super chat, attacker number 2. I absolutely refuse to back this manager. He's steering us into the iceberg no matter what idiots like Craig Hope say. Sunderland have humiliated us. That can't go without consequences. And do you know what? Touching on what attacker number 2 said, because I saw someone write it today and I thought, yeah, it's a good point. Do any of you, so this is a question to all three of you, do any of you think or believe that the statement that David Hopkinson came out and gave, this was before the run-up to the last few games, where it felt like he was basically saying Eddie Howe's on trial? And somebody said that was with 7 games to go, and we lost 4, drew 1, won 2. Do any of you, and I think I've asked you boys this before, so it'd be interesting to get Antonio's thoughts on this and to see whether you boys have changed your minds. But based on those 7 games where we've lost 4, drawn 1, won 2, based on those final 7 games and where we finished in the league table, is that going to have any, is that going to hold any weight when it comes to discussions with Eddie Howe for the post-season summit?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
So I'm putting myself in David Hopkinson's shoes, and I just think you can't base your next manager based on 7 games. I think that would be the stupidest thing to do. You've got to base it off the whole season. So regardless of what he said, what I think has happened, remember before the Barcelona game, he had an interview with TalkSport and he said, Eddie Howe's definitely going to be our manager. Eddie Howe was definitely... I think that moment, David Hopkinson was trying to psychologically give Eddie Howe a little bit of a boost to say, we're backing you. Go and do your thing. Just keep going. We're backing you. You're 100% going to be here. Then things didn't really go well. We got beat off Sunderland. And then he come out afterwards and said, he's got 7 games. I think he's trying to use a reverse effect to say, maybe if I use this approach, it might give him a kick up the backside. So I think he's tried to use both approaches. But deep down, I think the decision on Eddie Howe was made before these 7 games, because you can't base your next manager on 7 games, in my opinion. It's got to be across the whole season. So he got to a point before these 7 games where he's looked back this season and thought, maybe I trust these excuses, or this didn't really work for him, or that didn't really work for him. Next season it'll be better. Or he doesn't believe in what he's trying to do. And from the outside looking in, looks like he's trusted these excuses. So I just don't think you can base a manager staying in his job over 7 games. Do you know, I'm always here, he loses this game, it's the end of the road for him. I think the decision's already made. Eventually he's going to lose it. Whether he loses the next game or the game after, he's going to lose his job. Just depends when it is. They just want to do it after a loss. So, like, I just think he's tried different avenues on how to give Eddie Howe a kick up the backside. Neither has worked, but I think the hierarchy has heard the fans chanting his name and probably kept him in the job. I hope that's not the case, because again, you can't be making big decisions like that on emotions. But I just think the decision was made before 7 games, in my opinion. And that decision looks like, as it stands now, to back Eddie Howe. But for me, I think you've got to look at it at the end of the season and be like, can I see this moving forward? If they can, back them. If they can't, they've got to get rid.
Daz, what do you think?
That's my opinion.
I never believed David Hopkinson when he said that. Thought he's on the Kool-Aid again. Yeah, I don't know. No, the decision was made that even though we at that point we were calling for Eddie Howe to be gone, but I did not believe then after that 2-week window where there was an opportunity that he would change, and I do not believe now that there's any hope that Eddie Howe will be relieved of his duties, apart from him maybe going off himself. But he's even coming out and saying, doubling down that he's 100% committed. So I think he gets the summer, he gets at least until, let's say, Christmas, and see where we are then. I think I'd be voting that he'd be here next season.
I think he'd
This
be
time
here.
next.
Pete,
Even
just
though
to add a little. Oh, go on, Daz.
I was. No, go for that first. Gotta bring up the poll results later because
Yeah, please. No, Pete, I was just going to add on as a little extra to that. Do you think, given that with 7 games, and I'm not disagreeing with what Antonio or Daz have said here, I'm just doing devil's advocate, which we love doing. Do you not think that even though it will have been seen as like maybe a push or a prod to Eddie Howe that things have got to buck up, do you think that given at that point when there were 7 games left, we could have still got European football? Do you think that would have played a factor at all for David Hopkinson?
Factor in what way?
In the sense that if Eddie Howe had got European football, he'd have been like, yep, Sam, that's me guy. That's me man. He's turned it round. He's done what he needed to do. Or do you think he's almost thought in his head, let's see how he finishes and let's see how far off we are from European football? Or, if he finishes here, this is the decision. If he finishes there, that's the decision. Do you think there's any element of that at all where it's almost like a test for Eddie Howe for those 7 games?
I think it was, I'll be honest with you, I think David Hopkinson's comments were not related to Eddie Howe. I think they were a soundbite for the fans. I genuinely, I think that's what it was. It was a soundbite for the fans to let them know that we were still fighting and that we wanted to basically get European football, which is the minimum aim for Newcastle United. I don't think it was related to Eddie Howe's job at all. I'll be honest with you, lads. I think David Hopkinson was scared to pull the trigger. I think they were scared to pull the trigger. I don't think they wanted to because they were worried about what would be left, what manager would want to come on and take on this team with this aging squad of players, with players that are clearly not up for the task. I think they were worried about being able to convince a manager to come and take over someone that could be better. I know we've talked about lots of managers. Oh, they'll come to Newcastle. But Antonio quite rightly said you would have had agents last summer looking at Newcastle going, great club, but bit of a mess. Don't know if I want to be doing that. And I think they've probably looked at it and gone, maybe we can't take the risk here because we might not get the manager that we want to take forward. And I think he was scared to make that decision personally. I think we didn't have someone that was willing to take a risk. But I genuinely believe that Eddie Howe will see it out at least the first half of the season, And the only way I think that changes is if we go on a ridiculous run of results. Because you've got to look back to the season that's just finished. We lost 17 games. As you said, Chris, the same as Spurs. Only the relegation teams lost more games than us. If that's not a reason to sack your manager, I don't know what is. And I don't know. I can't say with you with any honesty or any kind of realism what it's going to take in order for Eddie Howe to get sacked. Because if you can't get sacked after losing 17 games, I don't know what's going to actually allow that situation to happen. I genuinely don't. I have no idea. So I'm looking at it and I'm thinking he's probably going to get half the season at the very least, because I do think with 1 game a week that we will have a team that will win enough matches to be able to keep in the jar. I'm not saying we're going to be up there top 5 by Christmas. I'm not going to say we're going to be in the bottom 5 by Christmas, but I'm going to say we're probably going to be in a position where his managerial position isn't going to be up for discussion with the hierarchy, not necessarily the fan base. And that's why I think he will still be in situation for December and probably by the end of the season. Because I do think if this season goes by any note and it continues in the same vein, I do think with 1 game a week, Newcastle will do enough to get European football. That's just my hunch, my hope. I'm not giving any facts or any reasons why I believe this, because I've got none. Just think that that's what we'll do next season. But
I think you're right, Pete. On the show, I think I'm going to have to change the poster. I have to be a statue of Eddie Howe outside St James's Park, but Melton is probably going to work there. I think that works for me.
if you could if you could create an image that looks like that, then
we'll sort that out. Don't worry about it.
You're even more of a genius than you were already.
Yeah. Yeah, Claire G says this has turned into a counselling session rather than a potential silence talk. And Lee Owens has said, Mango Free, the return.
Return of the Jedi.
That's the title. That's
Absolutely.
the title.
Should be, shouldn't it?
Antonio, I know we were only meant to do an hour with you tonight.
I know, it's good.
Like, I don't know how long more you've got. I don't know if you're okay for a couple more questions, but if we need to.
Absolutely. I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere now. So yeah, absolutely.
We're not leaving.
Yeah, I mean, Lee Owens, I'm going to read out just a few comments. Lee Owens says, how many Premier League teams would have sacked their manager after a season like this? I think it's a fair enough comment from Lee. There was a couple of really good questions as well. In fact, there's another one off Lee. I'll come to you with this one, Antonio. Wasn't Bruno's lack of fight in the Fulham game a sign of his surrender, the most worrying action of the season? We discussed this, Antonio, in our reaction to the Fulham game. You know, I think Daz coined the phrase Bruno subbed himself. Were you concerned by that when you saw that, Antonio?
1,000,000%. Because if there's one player in this team that seems like he never ever gives up, never loses a bit of hope, never just wants to show the fans that he's committed, it's Bruno. Like, there's no other, like, he's just got that character about him. So when he comes across this way, then to me, from the outside looking in, there is a problem. We've got to address the problem, because it's like anything. Yeah, if you can't see the problem, you can't fix a problem. And it seems to me like some people are just skirting over the problem, and it seems like there is I'm not saying deep-rooted problem, because that's probably a bit too far, but there is something there that's not quite right, and we need to address it. I don't know what that is, because I'm not a fly on the wall, but when Bruno's coming out like this, with just his body language on the pitch, the players didn't look like they want to be there, and that's me being brutally honest. I hate seeing stuff like this. I don't enjoy seeing this. But, like, I've got to see it, because that's what I see with my own eyes. And if there's one person that worries us about turning, it's Bruno. Because once he turns, I think that's it. Because he's a leader.
Sorry, just obviously because we're talking about Bruno here. And I remember I said that I was really concerned, because that was the first time I've ever seen him kind of go, you know what, I'm done, I'm out, and literally wanted to be subbed. He did actually put something on his Instagram after the game to kind of explain why he came off when he did. And he basically said, I had a fever for 2 days during the week, and during today's match, I felt cramps in both calves. Nothing to worry about, time to rest and recover so I can be 100% again. So he did address that after the game and said that was a reason. So whether, you know, we then could have our own opinions of whether we think that's the case or whether it's not, but he did come out and address it. He is very good at that, and obviously he clearly sees social media and people's responses were massive. And I didn't want us to kind of build a sort of a narrative when he's already kind of addressed it, if that makes sense. Maybe we'll change our own
Glad
views.
you said that, because Bruno to me, even like off the pitch, looks like an honest character. His interviews, everything like that. He's an honest man. And I think I'd actually believe him if he's coming out with stuff like that. So if he wasn't well, he was getting cramped up, then I get it. Like, it's a hard, when you're putting a shift in the Premier League, it's a hard job. And when you're not well and coming up with cramps. So I get it. And he comes across as an honest man. But I think this season, I'm going to be honest, I think Bruno's effort level has never been diminished, but I think even he's looked at this season and thought, what's going on here? Just by the look in his face, like sometimes, like after the Sunderland game, you don't come out and say there was no tactics, there was no passing, there was no crossing. Like if you haven't like just thought like what's going on at this football club, and I'm not even talking about on the pitch or Eddie Howe, I'm talking about the collective, like off the pitch, more the structure behind everything. So I'm just hoping now that we're starting to put the building blocks there, that we can really get these players excited for the future. Because that's what we need to do. We need to sell these players a project again. Because when these players signed, like Bruno and that, I bet you any money that we were saying to them, after 4 years, we're going to be qualifying for Champions League every year. We would have been saying that to these guys. And it's now 4 years. And it's no surprise that Anthony Gordon's looking at the situation being like, we're miles away. It's no surprise that Tonali's getting rumoured to be away. Like, again, I'm not being negative, but that happens at every football club. It's happening the same at Chelsea. Enzo Fernandez signed 4 years ago. Their ownership come out and said, judge us after 4 years. It's been 4 years, and now he's flirting with Real Madrid and Man City. Happens everywhere. So you've got to try and make them believe that the project is going somewhere, is what I'm trying to say.
Antonio,
so I think that's what we need to do.
I've got a question for you, Antonio, on the back of that, just with Bruno. So you talked about Livramento earlier, and you said it's a big summer for Livramento. He's got 2 years left on his contract. We either need to sign him or sell him. Well, Bruno's also got 2 years left on his contract this summer. So is there an argument that that's even more of a significant situation for us to be in? Because I'm just saying, can we afford to let Bruno go into the last year of his contract and not sign one? Is that more of a priority that we need to make sure we get him signed ahead of someone like Tino Livramento?
It is a priority, but if I'm sporting director and I'm looking at this situation, right, I think, and you can only do this with certain players, with very certain players, that they give you so much to the football club, and their importance has been so much in helping you qualify for Champions League, helping you win a trophy, that they've almost recovered their money that you spent on them. That 40 million we paid for Bruno. How much did we sign him again for? Was it
38? I think
35 into 38.
We've made our money back off Bruno. There's only very few players you can look at and be like, do you know what? You've given us so much that even if you don't sign a new contract, we're going to afford to sell in the last season. It doesn't happen very often, but like Salah at Liverpool, they can afford to let him go on a free because he's given so much to the football club. He's almost paid back what they've done. And Bruno's a little bit like that. So, like, yes, I always say when they get 2 years left on the contract, and Joe Linton's one. Joe Linton's got 2 years. I'd be looking at maybe his succession planning now. So, like, that's another one. But Bruno's a little bit different. And it's hard to explain why it's different. But because we know it, we can't win without Bruno. We've only won football games when Bruno's on the pitch. So, like, I'm not saying we should let him go on a free, but you can almost allow him, because of his age, what's he, 29 now?
28.
He's going to be 28. He's going to be 30 when his contract ends. I actually think Bruno will stay. He'll extend for another year. That's my opinion. But when he gets, let's say he extends for a year, and when he gets to 31, that's kind of a good age to say, do you know what? Thank you very much. We'll let you leave on a free because you've given so much to this football club. There's only very few players you can do that with, and I think Bruno's one of them. That's my opinion. I think the rest of them you can't. I think Bruno's the only one who can do that. And it's hard to explain what I'm trying to say.
No, I get you.
But I just feel like Bruno's importance is more than 50 million that we'll get from 60 million that somebody's willing to pay.
It's almost you could argue, Antonio, what we did with Trippier. Because we could have took the 12, like 30 million, whatever the bid was from Bayern. Yeah.
But he's given so much up until the point where he can't give any more. I think Bruno's a little bit like that. And it's hard to explain. But for me, would I rather keep Bruno for 2 years or sell him for how much? Because you've got to think, you've got to find a buyer. We can say sell him for 100 million, but truthfully, nobody's paying 100 million for 29-year-old Bruno at this point. If he was 24, it'd be a different story. So I just think like that. I just think the importance of Bruno to us, you can kind of let him get away with it, kind of. But I'll do my very best to get him at least on another year.
The goalposts might change on Bruno though if there was a managerial change. That's another factor there.
I don't think Bruno wants away, mate.
No,
I don't think Bruno wants away. I've seen this on your channel yesterday, and I just want to point out, I don't think Lewis Hall wants away.
Yes. kidding.
I think he's upset, and he's got the right to be upset, because if I missed out on the World Cup, I'd be like, fuck, like, you know what I mean? I'm a bit discouraged at the minute, but he'll get over it and he'll come back next season. I think Lewis Hall only leaves if somebody bids a ridiculous amount that we just can't simply refuse. I think Lewis Hall.
What would that look like? What would that look? What type of fee would you consider is a fee that we can't possibly turn down, in your opinion, for Lewis Hall?
I think you're looking north of 80 million that we can't turn down. My opinion. I think if somebody bids 60 for him, I think from memory he's still in contract till 2030. If I'm right in thinking. So like he's still got the best part of 3 years on his contract. So you could allow him to get to his last 2 and make a decision then, because he's still going to get at least 70 million from 75 million, even with 2 years left on his contract, considering his abilities, potential, his age. So I actually don't think he's going unless somebody bids a ridiculous amount.
We have to be giving him. Sorry, Pete. I was going to say, like, twins. What can you do with them? You go first.
It's the shades.
Yeah. It's the twin energy. All I was going to say is that it's been rumored that his wage is significantly lower in comparison to others in the team. So even though he's on a long contract, his wage doesn't really reflect his value in the club right now. So what I was going to say is that what you're saying is absolutely right. He can be disgruntled, but for me, if I'm a sporting director, I'm looking at him and he's disgruntled. Take that away and just give him a brand new contract. Up his wage.
Somebody said he's got till 2029 there. What I'd be saying to his agent now, I'd be like, look, offer him an extension for 2 years with, let's say he's on 30 grand. I don't know how much he's on, but 30 grand. Let's offer him an extension with a higher wage. You're not going to break the bank. You've got Kieran Trippier leaving, potentially Fabian Shaw leaving, Emil Kraft leaving. You could use that money on Lewis Hall.
Yeah.
And then you're pretty much protecting your asset. So all these rumors about Lewis Hall going out could actually be his agent, because he's at the point where he probably deserves more money. So it could be his agent saying, put these little feelers out in the media. Do you know what I mean? Newcastle will probably shut the bed and offer him a new deal. Agents do that. I know they do.
That's exactly what I said, Antonio, yesterday.
Like, it could just be that, because if I'm an agent, I'm using every tool possible to get the most money for my player, and that is using the media to my advantage. If it strengthens my negotiations with a football club, I'm gonna do it. Do you know what I mean? That's how agents think. Clubs do it themselves. They'll put feelers out to unsettle a player to say, oh, he's interested in coming, blah, 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 even though that he's not. Like, every club does it. So it doesn't surprise us. It wouldn't surprise us if Hall's thinking, I need more money, yeah, in comparison to what I'm giving this club. And so, yeah, I think Hall will stay for, let's say, another year at least, in my opinion. And I think it might be a couple of years. Well, I'm hoping. I think that's more out of hope than anything. But yeah, I just think it's ridiculous to see once out. I can imagine him being unhappy just for a little period, because I would be. Put myself in his shoes, I'd be a little bit unhappy, to be brutally honest. Yeah. So
make it all about him. But whilst the World Cup's on, obviously he's going to be gutted that he's not there at the World Cup. And that might change. You know, there might be a couple of injuries between now and then. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. There might be changes in the squad too. There might be a change there. But if he doesn't make it to the World Cup and he's not in the squad at the moment, what better way than just give him a new contract to make it all about him, give him the video, the reaction, the fan love, just make him feel wanted. So he strolls back into first preseason training on what I think it's the 13th of July.
13th,
and like he walks in. Yeah. Well, one of those, and why not? Why not have that lad walking in, knowing? And I'm not talking about like an ego or like an overconfidence. I'm talking about someone that's appreciated.
Belief. Yeah.
When you're appreciated, you've got belief in your ability, and you go in.
Every single player wants to feel loved. I don't care what anybody says. Every single player wants to feel loved. They want to feel like they're a part of something. Once you don't feel like you're a part of something, take Marcus Rashford for an example. I think he's highly talented, and I don't think Man United got the best out of him because he never felt loved. I think he did at the beginning, but that love fell away, and that made him fall out of love with football. And then we started seeing the bad performances. And I think every single footballer just wants to feel appreciated. I'm genuine with that. So, like, I just think, yeah, you've got. I think Hall is deserving of a new deal. If you're seeing the likes of Jacob Murphy getting a pay rise, and he's probably looking at that thinking, I know he's got in the leadership group, but come on, Hall's probably looking at that thinking, well, what have I got to do to get a little bit more money? So that's how I look at it.
Yeah. No, definitely. I'll do a few more questions, boys. Come to a super chat, and then I'll ask one final question. Travoy. Yeah,
I'm just in Pony Mag. A big up to Pony Mag, by the way. But big up to Pony Mag because on X, like he is brilliant, and he's a big supporter of the channel as well. So big up to. But that I just seen when you were coming to that question, Chris, and Dad just gave a big.
Poolie Max is making me feel loved. Every YouTuber, content creator wants to feel the love, but thanks, Poolie Max.
Of course he do. Travois Stevens. So he says, Antonio, I love Lamine Kamara. I love Victor Muniz, Mateus Fernandez Pardo, Risse, Bazuna Torre. Now, hold that, Travois, because we will come back to that on Mango Part 3. We will start talking players. Otherwise, we'll probably go into
the exact players we're going to talk about.
We will come back to those. Stu asks you, Antonio, what's your channel called? But Sophie knows the answer. And as Sophie has said there, smash the likes up and subscribe to War Mango. Yeah, Mango Talks Football.
Appreciate you. Yeah, it's just Mango Talks Football, or just search Antonio Mango. It's not a hard name to forget, to be honest. So I'm sure that'll stick in your mind.
Yeah,
but appreciate you, Sophie. Absolutely.
Thank you. What was the other? So I'm going to come to the super chat. So thank you very much, Stephen, for your super chat. And Stephen says, we need to wake up as a club and smell the coffee. If you don't think the Big Six will not try to scupper our summer again, you're having a laugh. Eddie struggled last summer. Come on, PIF, think about it. Now, we've said consistently on this channel, Antonio, that this is very much a Ross Wilson summer. We know we've got David Hopkinson in the CEO role. We know we've got Ross Wilson in the director of football role, which we didn't have last season. Or the sporting director role. We didn't have that last season. Are you confident that this is going to be, a Ross Wilson summer? And, how much impact do you think Eddie Howe will have, or input Eddie Howe will have this summer?
I think Eddie Howe will have an input, being brutally honest. I don't think it's all on Ross Wilson. I think Eddie Howe will have an input because they knew each other. Ross Wilson isn't going to come into the job and be like, do you know what? It's all on me. You're not having any say in this. That's just not going to happen. So Eddie Howe will have an input. Now, do I think we'll have a better summer than last? Yeah. But I also think we need to work smarter, not harder. Don't show our hand too much. I think last summer we were showing our hand too much. We're dipping into players and then pulling away and not really being aggressive. You've got to be aggressive. If you've got a target, you've got to target them. I don't want to see this tippy-tappy footy. If he's giving you no indication that he wants to join the football club, right, we'll do without you. We don't need you. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sick of just dilly-dallying across players, and even when they're not interested, but they are interested and they're looking elsewhere. If you're looking elsewhere, we don't want you. Do you know what I mean? We want players that want to be here. That's the way I look at it. And I think I'm hoping that Ross Wilson will have that mentality. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah.
So it's more of a hope more than expectation.
Yeah. Yeah. And Stu, just to let you know, Stu has subbed. Stu's gone on there, Antonio, and he has subbed.
Appreciate it.
Stu straight in there. And for anyone who missed it, you can sub to Antonio on Mango Talks Football. The link is there below. Right, where are we now, boys? Last question before we go to the poll. I'll leave the poll to you, Daz. But before we go to the poll, last question from Coronord. And he says, do you think Eddie Howe will transition us to a possession-based team in 3 months? And if yes, What gives you that impression? Pete, I'll come to you first on this one, mate.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chris.
It's about time I'm not first.
Yeah, I bet. But the reality is, no, I don't think it can be transformed in 3 months. I've
With a World Cup, Pete.
Yeah, well, exactly my point. What I've said to you boys before is that we've got a significant amount of our players that are going to be at the World Cup. So the World Cup final finishes on the 19th. Obviously, not all of them are going to make it to that point, but you'd imagine some of them will get at least the majority of the way. And so Eddie Howe's already confirmed in his press conference that players will be allowed a 3-week break after they finish their stint at the World Cup. So for a number of those players, we're probably not going to see them until August. Now, you're looking at the players that we're probably wanting to be available on the first day of pre-season. So you're looking at the likes of Bruno, you're looking at the likes of Nick Voltemada, you're looking at the likes of maybe Wisa, who desperately needs a pre-season at Newcastle. So probably does Anthony Elanga for Sweden, and there's a few others as well, the likes of Malik Chow, etc. So Eddie Howe probably isn't going to get to grips with some of those players until August, until there's only 2, maybe 3 weeks before the season starts. So if you're trying to implement a new way of playing, you need all your players available. So for that early part, he's not going to. That goes back to the point of why it's crucial that some of the new players are, one, not at the World Cup, and 2, players that are in whilst the World Cup's on or before, so they're ready to be there 13th of July, first day of pre-season, so we can get to work on them early. That's the big issue. I mean, Clonlad just put England ain't getting out the group stage. I wouldn't be surprised, but the only one that affects from Newcastle that probably still going to be at the club is Dan Burn, and I think we've already made our points clear on Dan Burn this evening, so I won't go any further there. So from my perspective, no, we won't see a system that will just be magically in place by the beginning of the season. But I hope that by the time August is out and that we're in September and the transfer window's closed and we've had maybe 3 or 4 games into it, I'm hoping to see something by then. That's what I'm hoping to see. And that might be, people might say, oh, that's not enough time. That's too short. We ain't got time to waste. We need to hit the ground running next season. And so Eddie Howe is getting everything he wants. I've said it to you boys on the last show. He's getting everything he wants. He's getting his pre-season in La Manga. He's getting everything close to him in Europe, in places where he knows and is familiar. So La Manga, he took Bournemouth a number of years ago. It's an establishment in a place where he knows. He's having pre-season friendlies against teams that he knows and is accustomed to. He's not traveling to the longest, furthest parts of the world, which is disruptive to the team. He's getting everything he wants. He might not have all the players there, but he's getting everything in preparation relation to the point that he wants. He's getting everything to a T. So there cannot be any complaints, because there are every other team in the Premier League that are also going to be losing their players until August. So I'm not going to give the manager or the club the same grace as maybe I did last season. I want to see them hit the ground running. I want to see them winning matches early doors. I don't care what fixtures they are. I want to see them performing. I want to see points on the board. I want to see a vision of Newcastle moving forward, that they are serious about next season, because they were not serious about this season.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair, mate. What about you, Daz?
No. In contrast to Pete's answer, I'm going to say no. But we're going to have. Okay, he's going to have a few new players to work with, and I expect to see 4-2-3-1 as our formation. The majority of next season. I know he switched up mid-game, maybe not as much as he switched it up against Fulham. I don't think he can take Anthem from that Fulham game. By the way, I was going to say that earlier. It was the player, half the players weren't even concentrating now, as we saw with the comments from Dan Burn, etc. So I don't. That was just complete write-off. I don't take that into context as well. But no, it's my answer to the question.
Yeah, me personally, I have grave doubts, and I think I made that point earlier in terms of Eddie Howe's ability to be able to do what he needs to do. But as Pete rightly mentioned there, I don't think there's any excuses this time around, and we can't be peddled with any excuses this time around because the pre-season, as we know, is going to be in Spain. Yes, there's a World Cup, but there's a World Cup for everybody. And we're in this position because of what's happened off the back of the season. Well, not everybody, but the vast majority of people. Sorry, does. But the vast majority, of clubs are going to have some sort of inconvenience when it comes to World Cup and their preparations for the season upcoming. So I think the big thing for me is going to be the transfer window. I'm going to be looking at that transfer window and looking at the type of players we bring in, what they bring to the table. And that will, I'm hoping that when we do start bringing players through the door and people leave out the door, that will bring a bit of confidence that we are going to see a change in the system. We are going to see a change in how we play. Will we be able to transition to a possession-based team in 3 months? Probably not. But it can only get better, boys. In my opinion, it can only get better. From what we've seen last season, it can only get better. And if Eddie Howe is in post, if his bum is on the seat, then he needs him, because I don't think the fans or the ownership will be very forgiving if we don't make a strong start to the season. But what about you, Antonio?
No. Just like Dad said. We're not seeing it in 3 months. Not a chance.
No.
I'm sorry. And now I'm just echoing everything you said. And I pretty much said it when I described that Liverpool game. That we do our best work in broken play. We do our best work when we overturn the ball and the opposition are in their offensive shape because there's gaps. We don't have... You look at our wingers. Our wingers aren't balls to feet wingers. They're all ball... I like to call them ball into space wingers. All of them like the ball into space. So unless there's no space, we can't keep possession. William Masula, prime example. Look at him when against Man United when there's space ahead of him. He gallops like a... They're Eddie Howe's types of players. And I don't think we can have such a drastic change in 3 months.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah. Daz, I'm going to pass over to you, mate, for the poll.
The poll. I think everyone's seen it already. Here, I'll get it. The results of the poll. The question was, will Eddie Howe be the manager of Newcastle in 1 year from now? So right at the end of next season. There was 92 votes. 82% said no. 18% said yes.
And I have to say, I did like this one. Andrew DB says 18% on crack.
I started that for a reason because I knew you'd come to that.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah. So it's damning stats. 82%. This time next year, Eddie Howe will not be in the hot seat, in their opinion.
But we have to say everyone's entitled to their opinion as well.
Yes.
Obviously, we're having a bit of banter this and the other about the 18%. But if you think he will be, absolutely, that's your sort of opinion. And I think there's a couple of us on the panel that even said
that will be, because it will mean that we've had a good season.
There you go.
And I think we also said that he'd be here next season. So it must mean that we're on crack as well. But thanks, Andrew. Thanks for that.
That's what I'm saying. We're on the panel.
Andrew will appreciate that. I know anyway.
Can I just throw up before we end Sophie's comment? Because Sophie's obviously been a very staunch Eddie out from November. And she said, because I had a bit of a chat with her on 12th Man on Monday, and put our reset and we start every season, same as the league does. Everything starts from zero usually, but I will keep my reservations on how next summer, but behind the lads always. And that is how we sit. Yeah. That is exactly everything that you've heard from Antonio, from myself, from Daz, from Chris. That is basically what we're saying, is that we're not, nobody's kind of, fully backing Eddie Howe 100% in terms of nothing can go wrong. But at the same time, we're saying we want to see improvements. But we're backing the lads and we're going to go into it with a fresh mindset, with fresh optimism. That's exactly what I said at the end of the reaction show to season's end, is that I want to go into next season with a little bit of optimism. We've got all our thoughts and feelings and our therapy out tonight, but it's about optimism going into next season. And we will be there. with that optimism. But then it's up for the players and the manager to prove that optimism was justified. So we wait and see.
Wait and see.
I feel like a new man after that therapy session. I feel like a new man. Just let it all out.
Like Chris later. Like Chris later on.
Yeah. The only question I've got really is it going to be a boy or a girl? Is your daughter going to have a brother or a sister? That's the only question I've got for you.
There's a lot of pressure on later. There was a lot of pressure. Yeah.
we have a new poll running, Chris, as well. What are the chances? But
I don't know if I've got it in me. This fan's going hell for leather. I don't know if I've got it in me after that.
Yeah,
it was a marathon of a show.
God. Okay. So to dampen any rumors as well, there is a Galway man going to appear in Love Island. It is not me. There's rumors around that it is me. It's not going to be me. Just so people.
It'd be class it would be class.
Yeah, my wife would get a shock as well.
Yeah. You can't anyway because we've got transfer shows to do. You can't go.
Yeah,
you can't go on
couldn't miss it.
Yeah. I like what Sophie put. She put loaded, give you wings, not Red Bull. I like that.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Absolutely.
Antonio, you did 2 hours and 10 minutes with us when you were only meant to do an hour. Absolutely superb stuff. Thank you for giving your time. The really hot and humid and uncomfortable evening to share your thoughts. I'm so glad you brought that question to the table because it took us probably an hour discussion, but it was a really good one. Not just for us and yourself, Antonio. I think for everyone that's watching, we've had 800 plus during the course of the evening, regularly watching the show. And thank you for watching. Give those likes, do all that good stuff for us and, of course, Antonio. But I think it was needed for all of us, Antonio. So I'm really glad you brought that question to the table. And maybe the next time you come about, once we've got through the players first, you might want to come with a different discussion.
Yeah,
why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
I mean, honestly, it's been a pleasure. I've loved every minute of it, and the chat's been great as well. So I think we need to give them the credit because shows like this are nothing without them watchers. Do you know what I mean? So I think the chat's been great, the banter's been great, and we've been honest. And I think that's all you can be. Just be honest. Do you know what I mean? So I think I've really enjoyed myself, and as long as your chat one is back, I'd love to be back on. So it's been a pleasure.
Of course.
Oh, there'll be loads of comments now, Antonio, saying you're too negative and all this.
Yeah, I know.
I'm joking. That was yesterday's show. Sorry.
Antonio, you've been on this channel for what, 3 years now, maybe more, 3.5 years. You know you're always welcome back. You're a stalwart of the channel, and you're always welcome. You know that for sure.
Cool. Going to give a quick shout out as well, boys, and chatters too. OKJersey.com and get on to the website. Check out what's on offer there. Any kit you can imagine, and also loads of other gear as well, like tracksuits. No crack, though, Andrew. If you're looking there, this is not the place to go. But if you use the code LOADED, and you'll get 8% off there as well. So go check that out. The new kits will drop soon. They're probably actually all dropping already. I haven't checked it recently.
I've dropped it to my boys, who are not Newcastle fans, or like Liverpool, Man U, Leicester, etc. But they're all getting on the England tops. They're getting them ready for the World Cup. Hopefully, we bring it at least to the quarterfinals, but hopefully bring it home. But they're already on it with Edward in getting their kits sorted. So, people, you need to get it sorted as well. It takes about 2 weeks. Just to give a little bit of a note, in addition to what Daz says, make sure you get the size up. So, whatever size you are, get the size up, just to make sure that it's the right fit for you. Definitely do that. I've let my boys know. We're aware of that as well. So get your top. You can get your World Cup tops for as cheap as £15. Like, you're not going to get that anywhere else. You know how expensive tops are now. Get on there. Takes a week or two to get in, but you're going to have it in time for the World Cup, and then you can support your country, whoever that may be.
That's it. We'll see you in the next one. And we'll see you, Antonio, for Antonio Mango Part 3.
Appreciate it. Been a
This
pleasure.
time we talk about players. Right.
Really,
Have a
guys.
good one.
Take
Take
care.
care.
Good night, everyone.
Take care.
Mama always told me, Papa always warned me, don't hang around.